Hey legends, welcome to Hellmouth Hotline. I am Rodney Stewart, your host, and we're finishing off season 2 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in this episode. This is episode 22, Becoming, part 2. This is a brilliant ender to the season. As we know, at the end of Becoming, part 1, Kendra, the Vampire Slayer, was killed, and the police found Buffy over the dead body, and they attempt to arrest her. And Buffy sees that Willow's unconscious, along with Xander. She's trying to find out if they're okay, but she's dragged out of the library by the police, where she meets Principal Snyder in the hall, and he's just like, if there's trouble happening in this school, Buffy Summers is going to be behind it. And Buffy goes off on one with him. It's like, you stupid little troll, you don't know what the heck you're talking about, sort of a deal. So she's nearly arrested, and she makes a run for it. So Buffy in this episode spends the better part of the time running from the police as a wanted woman, homicide suspect, and yes, it's not looking good for her. Angelus, of course, now has Giles as prisoner, and he begins to torture Giles for information and his own entertainment. Buffy finds Whistler, the demon, in Giles' apartment, and they discuss Angel's reversion to Angelus, and he reveals that Angelus, or Angel, was destined to stop a Cafala, not Wickham. So he's like, he was supposed to be the one to keep, even though we only met him in the previous episode, he was the one that was kind of putting Angel on the path and trying to keep him on the path, and things are feeling badly, and Buffy leaves. She knows at this point she's going to have to kill Angel. She goes to the hospital to check up on her friends, meets Xander in there. She discovers that Willow is still unconscious, and Xander explains, she'll wake up at any time, but the longer it takes, the worse the damage is going to be, head trauma. Buffy then, later on, out in the street again, still on the run from the police, is nearly arrested when a cop car pulls over, recognises her, jumps out. He's about to arrest her, but Spike attacks the policeman and offers a temporary alliance with Buffy. He's got no wish to see the world destroyed, and he's pretty much jealous of Angelus, the attentions that he's given Drusilla, and the attention that she's given Angelus in return. So Buffy and Spike, this is the start of something that's going to play out later on the later seasons, but it's always interesting for me when it comes to Spike in the show, because for a vampire that is 100% evil, he's got no soul and whatnot, he has got the ability to love in a way, and we get to see a little bit of that in this episode. But it's strange whenever the concept of the vampires in Buffy the Vampire Slayer is like the human's completely gone. It's a demon from hell taking up residence in the body, and the feelings and stuff that Spike tends to put out doesn't gel with your typical vampire. So and plus, Spike is a lot of fun to watch on screen. Basically, Spike offers to help Buffy stop Angelus if she allows him and Drusilla to leave town. Buffy and Spike go back to her house to talk, but they meet Joyce, And I thought it was a little bit strange in the episode. It kind of pulled me out ever so slightly that Buffy invites Spike into her house in this episode. But it is what it is. Joyce meets them as they're approaching the house, where they're attacked by one of Angel's vampire cronies. And Buffy, Spike team up, fight this guy off. Buffy pulls the stake out, stakes the vampire. So up to this point, Joyce, Buffy's mother, had no idea that her daughter was the Slayer, so she's forced to tell her mother all about it. And Joyce is like, she tells her daughter not to. One thing leads to another, essentially. Like, she sends Spike back to the mansion to make sure Giles stays safe, and when she makes her move, he has to back her up and get Drusilla out. She eventually agrees to letting the two of them go, but Buffy and her mother have the conversation about her being the Slayer. And do you really have to be the Slayer? Can you not be the Slayer? And Buffy's like, it just doesn't work that way. It's fate. I'm the Slayer. That's the way things are. I have to go. But Joyce goes into full hardcore 1990s Muller mode, and she's like, you're not leaving this house until we work everything out. And Buffy, knowing that the more time she's wasting, is just giving Angel more time to torture the information out of Giles and awaken Akafla. So she and her mother end up in a little bit of a scuffle of her mother trying to stop her from leaving the house, and Buffy uses a bit of her Slayer strength to actually push her mother away from her, and Joyce falls into the kitchen table, and she gets angry and tells Buffy, if you leave this house, don't you even think about coming back. And Buffy, in that moment, just more and more heartbreak going on to Buffy in this episode. So she leaves the house, and that's the last time her and her mother have an interaction in this season. Back at the hospital, Xander, he's sitting by the Willow as she's unconscious in the bed, and he actually confesses his love for her, and she begins to wake up. But the first person she asks for when she's starting to regain consciousness is Oz. So Xander has a little bit of heartbreak because of this, but that's as far as it goes. After Willow was up, getting a little bit more woken up, she is determined to try the curse again, so she sends Xander to tell Buffy her plans, hoping that she can stall everything until Willow gets a chance to complete the curse. Back at the high school, Buffy goes to the library to retrieve Kendra's sword. So we found out in the last episode that this sword was blessed by the knight that originally stopped Akafla, and she encounters Snyder whenever she goes in to get the sword, who gleefully announces that she's expelled, and Buffy leaves. So at this point, she's lost her mother. She's going to have to kill the man she loves, and she's been expelled from high school. And as she's leaving, Snyder gets on his mobile phone, and he calls somebody up, and he says, "Tell the mayor I've got some good news." So in this episode, they're setting up what's potentially going to be. Now I'm saying potentially, like, this series is well over 20 odd years at this point, and I do believe the mayor in season 3 is part of the big bad in it, but I'm not gonna put that out there right at the minute, because I honestly, it's been that long since I watched everything concerning Buffy the Vampire Slayer that I actually can't properly remember at this point. Like, I do know where the series goes in a roundabout way at this point, but it's been so long that it's just not clear enough to actually say, here, this is definitively what's going to happen in the next series. But yes, Snyder sends a message to the mayor saying he's got good news. Spike returns to the mansion, concealing that he's well enough to walk at this point. Angelus and Drusilla and the rest of the vampires still think that he's trapped in the wheelchair. And to keep Angelus from killing Giles, Spike suggests that Drusilla use hypnosis on him, and she hypnotizes Giles and appears as Jenny Calendar, and she manages to get the information out of Giles that Angelus is the key, and he must use his own blood, not someone else's blood, to awaken a Cáphala. Buffy then goes back to talk to Whistler again, who tells her if Angelus has awoken a Cáphala, that only Angelus' blood can again defeat him, and it'll send both of them back to hell. But he's like, you need to get back to the mansion, you need to get there, kill him as soon as you can, preferably before he awakens a Cáphala, because it'll be a lot easier on you. And she's like, don't worry about me, I've got nothing else to lose. And as she leaves the apartment, Whistler's like, no, you've got one more thing to lose, her own life, essentially. While Buffy's approaching the mansion, she meets Xander outside it, who's been sent there by Willow to warn Buffy that she's going to try to curse Angel with his soul again, and to stall as long as she can. But Xander, in that moment, decides that in the last episode he wasn't holding anything back. He's blaming Angel for so much that when he gets to the point where he can either turn left or right, do what Willow tells him, or be selfish and do what he wants to do, he takes the selfish route and tells Buffy that, he gets there, he's like, Willow sent you a message. He pauses briefly, and Buffy's like, what's the message? And he's like, kick his ass. And then Buffy goes to the mansion along with Xander. He's there to get Giles out, she's there to kick ass. In the mansion, Buffy comes in. She announces her arrival by decapitating one of the minions, and Spike surprises Angelus from behind, knocking him unconscious and proceeding to beat him brutally. And to his dismay, Drusilla sides with her sire, defending Angelus and attacking Spike. So in the final confrontation here, we have Buffy fighting Angel, Spike fighting Drusilla, and eventually he manages to knock her out and get her out of the mansion. And before he leaves, a now conscious Angel, after having, he's cut his hand, so he's got his own blood, grabs the sword, pulls it out of the statue, well, a Cáphala, essentially, who's still a stone statue at this point, pulls the sword out. So it's only a matter of time now before a Cáphala awakens. So when Spike and Drusilla, her unconscious, Spike's carrying her, as they're about to leave, Angel's got the upper hand of Buffy in the courtyard of the mansion, and Spike's like, my god, he is going to kill her. But then he just does a shoulder shrug, and he turns and leaves, and they get into their car with the blacked out windows that they originally came to Sunnydale in, and off they go. Drusilla still unconscious in the passenger seat, Spike happy and contented that he's got her back, and they're on their way again. So back in the mansion, Angel and Buffy continue their fight with the two swords. He now has the sword that's from a Cáphala. She's got the blessed sword from the knight that originally killed a Cáphala. And at the hospital, Willow, during the seance, or trying to do this spell to bring Angel's soul back to them, they've got everything in the hospital now. Just as Willow appears to be close to fainting during it, she suddenly regains strength and begins incantating in Romanian. So the higher powers step in at this point, or she's connected to a power that she can't control. They don't explain it that much in this episode. Of course, why would you? It's back in the 90s. It's not 2001 right now where every last little detail of an episode has to be explained there and then. Like, back then, they tended to give you a little crumb here and there for a storyline or a potential storyline that they would pay off maybe 2 or 3 seasons down the line. And they do that in this episode where Willow connects to something, a power stronger than herself, and it's basically the power to crank out the spell the way the Romanian gypsies did back in the day. She succeeds in restoring the angel's soul just as Buffy's about to kill him in the mansion. She's finally got the upper hand on him. She's got him down. He's actually on his knees in front of a Kafla, and she's about to take the final blow to kill him at this point. And then, just like as we seen in the flashback to 1898 when the gypsies cursed him, we again get to see that same movement in Angela's whenever the eyes sparkle and the soul's restored. And yes, Buffy realises that her angel is back, and the two of them go into a hug. And as she's looking over Angel's shoulder, she sees that a Kafla is awake, and its open mouth is creating an expanding vortex. When Angel, completely oblivious to the vortex opening behind him, he hasn't got a clue, as we've seen in the flashback to his original experience of being cursed in 1898. It took him a few moments to start to remember everything that he had did as Angela. So he's still, at this point in the episode, he's had his soul restored. He's completely, what the heck am I doing? Why am I here? What's happened? Everything's just, nothing's making sense to him at this point, but he's just glad to be seeing Buffy again. And he questions where he is, all that sort of stuff. And Buffy comes up, she kisses him, professes her love, and she tells him she loves him. And Angel tells Buffy that he loves her, and while he still has his eyes closed, Sarah Michelle Gellar's acting in this episode was insanely good. She steps back and drives the sword through his, not his heart, but through his, just above his stomach. And Angel's like, what the heck is going on? Still not realising what's happening. He knows nothing about the whole Kafla situation or this vortex that's going on around him. As far as he's concerned, the woman that he's loved since he first laid eyes on her has just driven a sword through him, and Angel is sucked into the closing vortex and the world is saved. So a Kafla goes back to being dormant. Angel's gone at this point. Buffy, at this stage of the series, has lost absolutely everything she has cared about, apart from her friends at this point. And she's completely distraught. She just killed her lover and she's been expelled from school. Her mother told her not to come back, so Buffy actually goes back home, packs her bags, and then goes to the school. She leaves a note for her mother telling her that she's leaving, and she goes back to Sunnydale High School, but she doesn't go in. She's standing behind a tree checking out what's going on. She sees that Giles, Willow, and Xander and Cordelia, they're all safe and well. They're heading into school. They have a moment outside themselves. Obviously Buffy was successful at stopping the Kafla because the world didn't end, and they don't know if the spell worked to restore Angel's soul, but then they think, okay, well, maybe it did work, and the two of them want to be alone together, sort of a deal. So they don't know what's happening, but they're going to go about their day, and in the background Buffy's watching everything that's happening. And as they go into school, she turns, walks away, and she gets on a bus. And the last thing we see at the end of the episode is the bus driving out of Sunnydale, and the town sign saying, "Now leaving Sunnydale, come back soon." So that ends off season 2. Absolutely fantastic. I love this season. So good. And these last 2 episodes were insanely strong. And it went to places you weren't really expecting. You know, you were expecting Angel to get saved, to get his soul back by the end of this. Like, the breadcrumbs was there throughout the series since Angelus killed Miss Calendar. But the way they ended it off here just was not what you were expecting, and it was so well done, so well told. And we'll see what happens in season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer as we continue on with this podcast. So if you're new here and you're enjoying it, hopefully you are, please rate and review the podcast. You know, throw a follow on there. Keep up to date with it. We're not just doing Buffy, we're jumping back and forth from other horror movies and television shows. And if you've got any suggestions for other shows or movies to talk about on the podcast, please let me know at Hellmouth Hotline at gmail.com, and your help would be very much appreciated. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next one. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you